I'm the type of person who has 500 tabs open in Chrome all at once. And that's actually the same for my brain. I constantly have new thoughts popping up when I really should be focusing, and I remember small things that I haven't gotten around doing. So, this really puts a big chaos into my brain when I'm trying to focus. Because I have such a hectic schedule while building this system up, I actually really prioritize simplicity and ease of use, and also the fact that things should be very easy to put in, very quick to put in, because otherwise I will just not put them into the system and then it loses its meaning. I've also got so many tasks that if it took a long time to organize all of these things, I would just rather not put it in a system because it would take so much time just to organize these. Over the years, I tried a lot of different things to try to help this, and these are the tips that I gathered over the years that helped me somewhat in managing this type of workflow that I have in my head. Now, this is not a perfect solution, but it works. So right now, this is what I'm using. Maybe in the future, I will find some other tips as I keep experimenting. But as someone who manages full-time work, extra things like learning a new language, family management, and also having a side hustle, YouTube business, and all of that, it is really a lot of different things that I need to keep in mind. So I'd rather just use my brain to do those things rather than remember them. So, as I said, the main reason why I really wanted to get a system to tackle this is I really felt overwhelmed when there's a lot of things going on and I have to keep them all in my head instead of just, having a system. So the more things I tried to juggle in my brain, the less focused I became, or the more effort it was for me to get into deep work, which leads us to the brain dump method and a couple of different things that I included in my everyday life in order to help with the mental clutter. So if you search online, there's a lot of different methods that people use. However, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I personally used and how they helped me or how they didn't work. And the first thing would be actually building a second brain in Notion. Now, this is a method that is very popular among a lot of productivity YouTubers. It got recommended to me by a friend as well. However, Notion is very good. I use it for a lot of things, but for brain dump, I felt like it wasn't really working for me because it took a lot of time to set up. There was a lot of overhead, and somehow it just didn't click with me. So in the end, I just couldn't get into the habit of using Notion as a brain dump and building so-called a second brain with it. So I decided after 3 months to use something else. And that is when I actually got into the bullet journaling method. That really helped a lot at the very beginning. I think it was very popular in probably around 10 years ago. It's still very popular, but it started gaining traction around 10 years ago. It was very good for me at first. I really loved paper and having things in a notebook. However, over time, it wasn't too flexible for me. I couldn't move things around very easily if I put down like appointments in the calendar in a bullet journal. However, with the bullet journaling method, back then it was all about aesthetics and making it look pretty. And while I could not make it look that pretty, I still spent a lot of time setting up the monthly spreads and the weekly spreads. And if you like that, if you enjoy that process, then that's one thing, like do it. However, for me, I really didn't enjoy sitting down for a couple of hours just drawing out the grids and the different spreads for the month. And eventually, I actually evolved into using Google Calendar and some other digital methods that are a bit more flexible. Now, Google Calendar is an absolute godsend. It really governs my life. I think I've had a lot of videos already talking about it, but I don't know what I would do without the Google Calendar. Also, the other advantage, it's very easy to actually color code it. It's very easy to drag things around. I can have multiple calendars. So for example, I have a separate calendar for my business, separate calendar for everything that I do with my husband, something with family, and also my personal calendar for things that I do alone. With this, it's very, very easy to organize everything that I have to do, also reminders. So I really just like Google Calendar as a brain dump method to really keep all of the appointments in one place, or all of the time blocks, reminders, birthdays, all of that, so that I don't have to keep all of those in my mind. So I absolutely love Google Calendar. But that's not the only thing I use. There's also another system that is so easy to input systems in, and that is Todoist. Now, I currently actually still use the free version. There is a paid version as well that has more functions, but for me, the free version is totally fine. And the reason why I still use Todoist in tandem with Google Calendar is the fact that I actually don't like using the reminders in the Google Calendar so much. And there are a lot of small tasks like tracking appointments, even if it's, healthcare appointments that I have to repeat every 6 months or every year or so. And it's the same that I track for myself, my cat, all of that in my family as well. That also really helped me to not have to worry about remembering, oh, yes, every March I have to go to the dentist for a yearly checkup or so, but it comes up naturally. Also, what I really, really like in Todoist, and this is, I think, the main reason why I kept using it, is the natural language recognition. So you can literally put the text in, um, go to the dentist every March, and it will actually repeat every single March without you having to fiddle with the buttons and all of that. It literally just recognizes the words you write down every March, or you can also say every month. Or there's actually another function which I really like is every exclamation mark month. And that means that it's every 30 days, but if you say procrastinate on something or you did it slightly later, then it calculates another 30 days from the time that you completed it. Because, for example, if, 1 month I didn't do something and I procrastinated, I basically left out a month, then it doesn't come up 2 times in a row, which would just kind of be an extra work for me to tick off. So overall, Todoist is really amazing for these small things that come up as well, because there's an inbox, and then later on you can also organize them into projects or different priorities, different timelines, due dates, and so on. But again, it is so easy to use because with the app, you literally just type in whatever you want and it will set the reminders for you, the priorities for you, and so on, and you don't have to bother with it. So I am completely in love with Todoist. I think a lot of these recurring tasks or things that are around the house, I really rely on Todoist. However, the last thing that I really, really use, and this is mainly when I'm just absolutely overwhelmed and I do not want to touch Todoist, not touch my phone, Google Calendar, nothing, then I just take out the good old paper. And literally, when I'm that stressed, I just write down all of the things that are in my mind so that later on I can actually check them and go through it with my Todoist and input anything I want. However, if I really need to focus quickly on something, but there's a million other things in my head, then I would just put it down on paper. It takes like 2 minutes or three, but already that kind of helps with me feeling overwhelmed, because I feel like sometimes the reason why I feel overwhelmed is because there's so much stuff in my head and I think that there's a million things to do. But when I actually write it down, most of the things don't need to be done right now, and it's literally like 5 items that I really need to worry about. Most of them are not even important things, but they still clog up place in my brain and also makes me feel overwhelmed. So again, that is something that definitely helps when I'm feeling completely overwhelmed and do not know what to do. So moving on to when I actually do a brain dump. There are a couple of different times that I do it. One would be daily. So at the end of each day, if there are things that are still left behind, either I put it down in my to-do list that is also kind of like a bullet journal, but it's not quite. It's a printed version that I do for every single week. Or I would just put everything down on a sticky note so the next morning I can really go through it and check what needs to be done. This actually really helps me so that when I go to bed in the evening, it's not like I have all of these things swirling around my head. Oh, I should not forget to do this tomorrow, and so on and so forth. The second one is a weekly one. So I already talked about this in a weekly reset video, but basically at the end of the week, I really sit down and sift through all of my work, all of the things that need to be done that I haven't got around yet, and I do all of that. However, of course, before that, what I need to do is get all of the things that are in my head out in a piece of paper so that I can prioritize them. But the last one is arguably the most important one. So before doing any sort of deep work, if I feel like there's stuff swirling around in my head, or I'm even feeling like slightly overwhelmed, then it really, really helps me to write all of these things down on paper. Sometimes I try not doing that because I'm like, okay, no, I can focus, it's fine. But then halfway through, I realize like I haven't actually done a lot of deep work. Then I actually realize, oh, I should have actually just written those down. So then the result of this is me feeling so much less overwhelmed, and it is so much easier to get into focused mode. Now, I know that a lot of this sounds like, very simple things, but it actually really helps to offload that mental clutter and have it on a piece of paper instead of in my mind. So, have you ever tried out a brain dump method? And if so, what kind of systems do you use to organize all of these thoughts or these extra activities? If you've never tried it out, I'll challenge you before your next deep work session. Take 2 minutes to write all of those things down on a piece of paper. And while you're working, if there's anything that comes up in your mind, just write it down on the same piece of paper and vow to only look at those, or rather, only deal with those things after you've done your session of deep work. See how much easier it is for you to also get into the deep work mode and how much easier it is to focus on the task at hand. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos on expat life, productivity, career tips, and expat life. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!